Okay, you ready? Yeah. Welcome to the week 2 feedback video for Figuary 2020, and well done for getting this far into the challenge. And we're going to look at some of the drawings that you guys have done later in this video. But let's just think for a moment about what a challenge it has been. Short time limits in the practice sessions. We've been looking at great artists, trying to learn from different artists each week. That's a lot to take on, and it's really tough, and you can't do all of it. Like, you can't be drawing like Richard Powell within like 3 or 4 days, and then be drawing like Lane Brown within 3 or 4 days. But hopefully you can start to take on some principles, and what those principles will vary depending on your experience level. So one analogy that I like is the fridge. We have basically brought home a load of groceries, too much to eat, and so we put a load of it in the fridge, and we just think, how much do I want to put on my plate right now? And then later on, once we've eaten that and processed it and digested it, we can go to the fridge and get some more out and work on that. One quote that I like from someone on Instagram just doing Figuary. This is Volodya, who actually did our course before last year, and so I know that he always writes cool notes, really nice notes on his drawings. Said the most important part is not to get upset that today's drawings are not that great compared to yesterday's. And I think that is important because it's going to be quite up and down as we go. One thing I did think though is, this is a great drawing. Why isn't he happy with this? And then I looked at some of his drawings from the previous days, and they're really good. And that's one thing, is as you do better, as you improve, your standards keep going up. And as you understand more, your eyes get better, and you can see things that you're doing wrong even more. So, we're likely to always be, a little bit dissatisfied with how we're drawing sometimes. But one thing I did notice is that he also gives himself a lot of credit when the drawings do go well. And that's something that's really important to do. So the first artist that I wanted to look at is Logan. And Logan, I think, mentioned being a beginner on, in some of the comments, and maybe on first glance you can sort of see that as well. But when I looked at Logan's drawings, I was really impressed. I hardly saw any real major problems to be fixed in terms of what we've been looking at. Big curve on one side of the torso and a sharp angle on the other, and doing justice to the angles. Finding, in tricky poses, finding the big abstract shapes. I think that if Logan had better line quality, usually there's more fundamental things than the lines and the marks and the material used that can be fixed first. But for Logan, I feel like switching materials, using an overhand grip, working on line quality and practicing so much that the confidence comes into these marks. That is what Logan needs next, it seems to me, just based on these drawings. So I just wanted to show Logan how these drawings could look with more confident, fluid marks that have their own movement to them. And so all I did was kind of trace over on the iPad, trace over his drawings, so they're the same lines, but just with different types of marks. I think I added one line, for the hair, and I think that was more or less it. But the other one that I wanted to add is something that Mako mentioned in her notes for day 6. Adding this point at the base, at the bottom of the neck, the collarbones. You might add the line of this muscle, the sternocleidomastoid, this V muscle on the neck, and the collarbones, and this kind of point here where it all meets. You might want to add that, and then work on this idea of line quality, starting to use the overhand grip. And then a lot of these drawings I think are there already. And so I thought that was, when I started to think through what Logan needed, I was surprised. It's not often where you just think, actually, most things are in place. It's just the line quality here for these quick sketches. So these 2 drawings are by Demetrio, who has a lot of skill already, a more experienced artist, I think. You can see the gestural drawing. You can see that Demetrio is simplifying into big curves, big simple curves, just like we've talked about, lots of movement, lots of flow, and the gestural drawing turned out great. Demetrio did study like Lane Brown, like we've been working on, which is fantastic. I think it worked out great too. So a couple of things I thought could be changed. I thought the head could be a little bit smaller and the butt a little bit bigger. And also that right hand side, the top side down the torso, in the gestural drawing, there's a nice C curve this way and then another one that way, creating a nice kind of angle here. And I felt that got lost, that dynamism got lost. Like you can see Demetrio's gestural skills in that drawing, but a little bit of it got lost. And so I thought Demetrio could bring that back and then also just make the butt a bit bigger. And then in terms of the edge of that shadow shape, firstly, the shape could be a little bit more interesting, you know, design it to be a bit more interesting, not more complicated, but maybe a bit more interesting, and vary the edge of it. Bring some real strength to some parts of that edge to make it more interesting again. Also, you know, you have two butt cheeks and they're kind of different volumes. So you wouldn't want to have, you know, the edge of the shadow shape explains the volumes it's wrapping around. And so when you have like two separate volumes, the edge can jump up. You know, when the next volume starts, it can jump to a different spot rather than just continuing on, because then it feels like the same volume. I hope that makes sense, Demetrio. The next one is Linda. I think Linda did a great job looking for and simplifying the edge of the shadow shape, which is what we've been working on. So that was really good. But the thing that I thought Linda could work on was one step back from that. Right at the start of Lane's drawings, he starts with three kind of really simple ovals, just throwing them down, like throwing down lumps of clay to start working with. And so I think that Linda could focus on just finding those three matters, even if it's just some big ovals to start things off. But you want to find the rib cage separate to the pelvis. At the moment in Linda's drawing, I don't think that, you know, there's no kind of sharp, even though the rib cage is like this and the pelvis is like this and there's this tension and sharp angle here, that's been lost. I'm not feeling much structural difference between the rib cage part and the pelvis. It's just kind of one unit almost. Also, the angles have been reduced. So don't be afraid to think of those big chunks as, you know, on completely different angles, and emphasize that angle and emphasize the tension between them. You know, there are levels of detail in the drawing that are nice, but something more fundamental, more basic needs to happen first, which is throwing down really big simple shapes on, you know, strong angles, if that's the type of pose it is, and it is in this case. In this pose, there are strong angles between the rib cage and the pelvis. Throw those down first before worrying about, you know, the shadow shapes and the details and all that kind of stuff. So guys, tomorrow we're going to be learning with life drawing teacher Jake Spicer, and then later in the week Mako is going to be helping us with foreshortening, and later on in week 4 things are going to get really crazy with clothing on the models and stuff like that. So stay tuned, hope you're enjoying it, good luck with your practice sessions, and I can't wait to see all your drawings on Instagram and the community and stuff like that. So good luck guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.